This video is going to show you how to add the foundation annotation for those of you who are going to redo your foundation in Revit. In the last video I showed you how to add the frost wall to the garage, and I added this little mud space and how to control the heights of things inside that space. So now I'm ready to go into foundations and actually add the information that we need to make this a full foundation plan with annotation. So the first thing I want to address is that this needs windows. So if we use the P over 15, this is 24 by 30. So I just did the math real quick and it ends up being about 7 windows. So I'm going to go to Architecture, Windows, and I'm actually going to go to the Load family and see if there's a very basic basement window type that I can select. Let's go to Windows, and I want a sliding window. I wonder if I have sliding with trim. I think I might already have that. We either could use a sliding or an awning window. I'm going to go ahead and use an awning window, and that way I don't have to use 7 windows. I can use perhaps 5 windows or 6, and that should be plenty. Alright, so that window type is too tall. I want that to be, for an awning window, I'm going to make it a depth of 24 and a width of 36. And I don't see that here, so I'm going to go to 24, 24, edit type. You know what? I'm going to make a change here too, so I'm going to duplicate that and make that 18 by 30. And then I'll make that the height 18 inches and the width 30 inches. And I'm going to put that, let's see, I'm going to think about the first floor plan. Driveway would most likely be over here. I might have some shrubs here, but it looks like I would be able to put some windows on this side. It won't be in the way. I might put a porch here on the front, so I'm not going to bother putting any windows here. And then I'll put windows along this side and this side over here. So just kind of think about what you think you'll be doing later to the building, and pick the best spots for your windows. So we'll put one there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then let's put one back here for 6. I want to check the height of those windows in the basement, so I'm going to double click, and those are way too low. So we want those windows to be right at the top of the foundation wall. So I'm going to put that at 0 and see what we get. So that's what I'm going to see what that sill height is. Head height of 7 feet 3/4. I'm just going to make that an even 7. And so I'm going to set all my other windows to that height. Alright, so the best way to do that is to go to the foundation, and I'll show you how you can get those windows a little bit more quickly. If you just put a crossing window around the area that the windows are, you can use this filter tool. I'm going to get rid of the checkbox and everything and just check off the windows. And that will then allow me to change the head height for globally for all those basement windows to 7. Now it might be that the windows disappear from your plan. This can be controlled by changing your view range. So if you highlight the foundation view, up here you can edit the foundation view range. So if you go under view range and click edit, do you see that the sill height is only set to 4 feet? Or the cut plane rather, and the sill height is above 4 feet. So we want to set that cut plane to, let's try 6 feet. As soon as we set it to 6 feet, we can see the sill of the windows. Okay, now these won't have any windows because we don't have a subfloor here. This is in a basement area. The slab is actually above us here. So one of the things that we do to make that clear is under the annotate, we're going to add some text inside of this area and just call that unexcavated. Or you can say clean fill below slab. And that way it's clear that that where we happen to be slicing here is in an area where we don't have a slab. And that defines where the frost wall is for the garage. Okay, now we have to address how we're going to support our floor and where the lally column should go. So I'm going to, in my foundation view, go to default. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go back to underlay. Whoop, keeps wanting to go to the bottom here. I think we just hit escape. There we go. Why won't it stay up there? So I want my underlay, there we go, to be my first floor. And that's kind of odd. It's showing me my roof instead. Oh, there's the first floor. You know, I'm noticing some odd behavior here, so I'm going to shut down Revit and open it back up again. Alright, I got to the bottom of it. It turns out that our roof was somehow coming in with the underlay and we had to hide it. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to unhide it first. Let me see, maybe I don't have it selected. I guess I just didn't have it selected correctly. Unhide view. Oh, it's not showing by category. Try it again. Okay, third time's the charm. Click on Reveal Hidden Elements. I'm trying to get my roof back on here. Unhide view by category. Okay, now I've just made it so we can see the roof again. This might happen to you. You put an underlay of first floor. You're not supposed to see the roof. You're supposed to see the first floor. And what's weird is every time I zoomed in and out, I could see the first floor for a second and then it would disappear. When I did some research online, it turns out that this roof is blocking our view of the first floor. So if you select the roof and you hide by category, so we're hiding all the roofs, then we can see our first floor and now we can lay out our lally columns. So what I want to do is figure out how many lally columns we need, and you're going to do the same. So I'm going to let you guys figure that out for your own project. And there are columns that you can use. I'm going to try using a structural column, but it might be that we end up having to use an architectural column. Let me just see if we have a circular version. Round, hollow, structural column is what we want. It looks like there's only one size option. That's about right. It's the 4 by 1/8 of an inch. That means the wall of the lally column is 1/8 of an inch thick. So I'm going to place about 4 of these in here because I don't want to reveal how many you should have in yours. And notice that I placed them all along that wall. So that's going to take care of our lally columns, and that's what we needed that first floor layout for. The other thing we want to take note of is where our stairs are and our opening is, so that we can create notes for where our double joists are supposed to go in order to support the stairs. And I think that's about it. So I'm going to now get rid of my underlay. And it appears as though our columns got put in, but they got put in maybe at too low a level. So I'm going to go to my elevations and see if we can find, actually let's, better yet, I'm going to go to a section. Let's try this section and see if we can find those columns. There they are. So I'm going to turn on my crop region, expand my view, and I just want to grab all those columns, and instead of putting them at an offset of -9 feet, I want to put them at 0. Oh, alright, so let's try 9 feet. Alright, so that puts them in the right direction, but we need to set the columns so that they match the height of this level right here, which is the top of wall plus 1.5 inches. So better yet, let's grab the columns and we're going to put them at top level, top of wall, and we're going to put in an offset. So leave that at 0. We're going to put in an offset of 1.5 inches. That should do it for us exactly. Alright, so this is where our beam would go in our section. Let's go back to the foundation plan and we should see our lally columns. We see 2 of our lally columns, so that means I must have missed a couple. So let me go back to my front elevation and see. Sure enough. So let's set that to 0. Oh, going to change that to top level to top of wall, and then you can change this to 0 and then top of wall to 1.5 inches. And go back to our plan. There they all are. Okay, so now we can see our lally columns. What goes below our lally columns are our pads, and I think we might be able to find those under structural. We want a structural isolated pad, and I want to change the size of that. That's bigger than it needs to be. There's a lally column footing right there. So we want to put that so that it's centered on our lally columns. And it's going to give you some warnings. Don't worry about it. We'll fix it after. Okay. Now let's see where those ended up in our section. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. So those warnings were just letting us know that we weren't going to be able to see them in that view. That's okay. We do want to, however, see the hidden lines in that view. So I'm going to go back to the foundation. We're going to figure out how to turn those hidden lines on. Let's see. If we select the footing, I'm going to select all 3 footings, 4. And I think there's a way for us to edit. Whoop, that's not the footing, that's the wall. Okay. I think there's a way for us to edit how the lines are handled in this view. So we're going to try a override graphic view by element. I want to be able to see all my projection lines for those as hidden lines. So I'm going to change this to hidden lines, apply, and that takes care of the ones on the outside. We're not seeing the ones on the inside. So so far so good. Maybe we don't need to see the slab. So if we select the slab, so we don't really need to see the hatch pattern on the slab if we're not slicing through it. So I want to be able to select the slab. Let's do it this way. Grab everything, filter it. I want just the floor. And then I can take the floor and set it to an override graphic view by element. I don't want to see the surface pattern, so I'm going to make it invisible. That should allow us to see our footing, but it isn't. Alright, figured it out. If we select the slab again by selecting everything and filtering it, we're going to try one other thing, override graphics view by element, and I'm going to set the surface transparency to 100%. So that way the slab is there, but we're not seeing the hatch pattern for it, which makes sense because it's really the walls that are in section, so it's the walls that should have the hatch pattern on it. And now we can see the hidden lines that are representing the footing. We also want to select, and we can select one of these pads and override the graphics by category. If we do that, we can say, all right, we want our projection lines for the category in this view to be set to hidden lines. Maybe it's better to just do them individually. So select the pad, go to override graphics view by element, projection line, set it to hidden, and try the hidden 1/8 of an inch. There we go. And just go on to the next one. You can pick more than one at a time. Alright, there, that takes care of the hidden line features. Now I want to make sure that these lally columns and these pads are going to stick together. So we can select the lally column and the pad. It doesn't look like there's a way for us to dimension that. So let me see if I can add a dimension to it. Oh, good. Okay. Now, I should be able to grab the lally column and change the dimension. Whoop. That's at 12 feet. We want to keep it at 12 feet. And this dimension here should be at 8 feet, and it is at 8 feet. So now between these two, I can grab that dimension and move it to the next lally column. And I want to select this one actually and move it to the next lally column. So we're moving that that lally column. I want to move it 8 feet. And then we can select this lally column, take the extension line for it. Sometimes you get to pick it more than once so you get those buttons. Oh, there it is. So we move that to the next lally column, and I want to set that to 8 feet. And it looks like I just had an extra lally column that I don't need, so I'm going to get rid of it. We also want to check to see if all of the lally columns are in the right position this way. And it looks like they all are. So now what I can do is leave that dimension here. That's fine. And then put in a center line. So the way you put in a center line is we want to create a detail line. There it is. And that detail line in this case wants to be a center line. So I want to create a detail line that goes right from the center of these lally columns and extends in both directions so I can use them to dimension. So that's also something that I'm going to call out as a beam. You can create 2 more of these center lines here, or just a center line here. And that's going to be where you indicate that there's a double joist. And then we can put in our annotation having to do with our framing and our slab and things like that. So we put in 4-inch concrete slab, smooth, level. Put in our dimensions for our windows. Where did our windows go actually? Let's fix that. I'm going to go back into the view range and set that back at about 6 feet. There we go. We do want to add the dimensions for where all of our windows are located. And we also want to add dimensions to locate all of our lally columns. Perfect. What else? Okay, so let's add an annotation for our framing. So I'm going to point to that center line and call that a double joist. We can add another arrow to that by adding an arrow. I want to add an arrow to, whoops, the side. Oh, is it going to like it? Do it that way? Let me select it. There we go. I want to add an arrow to the side. There we go. And then I can adjust what that's pointing to. So that indicates, oh, I'm sorry, this wouldn't be a double joist on that side, would it? So I want to subtract the arrow from that side. This would be a double joist. This is going to be, if we add the arrow, let's say 3 2x12s beam. And then for framing, I'm going to use a straight arrow or one segment arrow and write in 2x12s at 16 inches on center, blocking at mid span. Typical. And then we can take that, move it to a better location if it's in the way. What's nice about Revit is it masks text automatically for you so that you don't end up having stuff running over each other. One of the things that will help is if this is printed at 1/4 of an inch equals a foot scale, all the text is going to get a better size and more manageable. So let me pick that whole thing up and put it where I wanted to put it originally. Then we can grab the arrow and put it here. And I'm going to grab a second arrow for this. So I want to add a second arrow on this side, and that tells us what our floor joist and span is throughout the foundation. Let's put in some overall dimensions. So I need a dimension from here to here and from here to here. Whoops. I could also move this section in a better spot. I want that section to include information all the way to the stairs, and this section could be moved in just a little bit, and I can move that tail in a little bit so it doesn't run over the dimensions, and move that out or down, one or the other, to a better spot that doesn't run over the dimensions. Let's see, now we have to dimension the foundation, and we missed that window back there. So I will add another dimension beyond that one for this bump out. And actually, let me do that again. We're going to go ahead and pick up all of them. So to there, and there, and there. That gets everything. And then if we go from here to here, whoops, there. I do need to know what this dimension is too. We'll line that up with that. Alright, so it's not unusual to get some odd dimensions when you're laying out that foundation wall, because if you need something to line up with something else. But I'm thinking this one doesn't need to be 7 feet 10 3/4. So what I want to do is look at the first floor and find out why it would be 7 feet 10 3/4. So I'm going to select that dimension and put it here and see why that's happening, and that's why it's at 7 feet 9 5/8. That wall should really just be at whole 8 feet. That's better, and I think that means that we probably got to also select our, nope, it looks like it's fine. So now if I go back down to the foundation, hopefully that moved along with it. Makes it 8 foot 1 1/8. Interesting. That may be a problem too, so let's select this one. Let's go to first floor and see where we're at with this one. So I want to find out where this dimension is, or this wall rather. I don't like where that dimension's going. I want it to go over to here. Well, let's do it this way. Put the align dimension from there to there, and we'll find out what's going wrong. Alright, so that is 22. So why is our foundation wall not lining up with that? Let's go back to the foundation. Let's look at our section. So I'm going to move that section back to here and figure out if it's not lined up properly. So we got to be able to see our detail, and that's why. Alright, so this wall, I think I didn't go around and do this to the foundation walls, which would explain why we're getting some weird dimensions. So when we do need to align, the foundation wall, just like we did with the foundation wall of the main part of the house, with the outside face of stud. So that's all that's happened here. So I'm going to move that detail a little bit more so I can get to that. Oops, got a floor plan. Let's move that right there. And now I can see it. So we align that with that, lock it, and then I'm going to go in the other direction. Alright, we finally got those all squared out, so now I've got all these dimensions making sense. It turned out that my foundation walls weren't perfectly aligned with my upper wall, so you saw how I just had to go in and correct that. So that looks like that's fully dimensioned. One of the things we should be able to see here are the openings for the doors, the garage doors, so that we can dimension those. So we need to work on being able to show that information, and that can be handled in the view. I think for that just that one wall, we might be able to control the cut plane for that one wall. No, all right. I figured out what we can do here is in the foundation. If you go to View Range and go to the Edit tab, just increase this view range. What I tried first was 7'5". Watch what happens over here. It gives us the view of those drops, but then we can't see the top of wall anymore. So I just played around with that number and tried 4, 3, and then as soon as I tried 7'2", then I was able to see everything that I needed to see. I'm just going to go down to 7 feet and see if that improves the situation, and maybe even try 6'11". Alright, so this definitely has to be at 7 feet for us to be able to see what we need to see. Now there's some extra information showing up on this view, these walls for instance. I'm just going to freeze them or turn them off in this particular view with the visibility graphics. So I'm going to select these two walls because I don't want to see them yet, and then in the override graphics view by element, I'm going to make them invisible. And then that way we have now all of our windows showing. We can see our openings for our overhead doors, so I can add the dimensions to them. Alright, I think that just about does it. I just went in and add the rest of the dimensions just to show you what it would look like. Remember, this is the frost wall, so there'd be no windows in here. And we want to make sure that we indicate what this opening is for a rough opening for our concrete. And then notice that I have here that there's a 9.5-inch drop, typical. Well, I calculated that by adding 1.5 inches from the slab to the top of wall, plus the thickness of the slab, which is 4 inches, plus if typically there would be a haunch here that would be thickened and poured at that section of the slab, and it would be at least another 4 inches thick. So I went with a 9.5-inch drop, and that would be the depth of that haunch. Just in this area there would be a haunch. Everywhere else it would remain 4-inch thick slab. It's right where we need to create the slab needs to be poured over the edge of the foundation wall in order to engage with the exterior grade. So the other dimensions that I added were the 2 dimensions to locate the center of the lally columns. I pulled them out here instead so we can identify our spans more clearly. I tagged the windows, so they're going to show up in the window schedule, and added the notes in the foundation of the slab. I guess I should change that to smooth rather than smoot. There we go. And so that should take care of what we'd have for foundation callouts on our plan. So in the next video I'm going to show you how I would arrange these details here in the foundation view, or if we have room to add them to the same sheet that we have for the sections, this would be critical so we could show that haunch. This would be helpful to see how we're connecting from the house to the garage, and this might be where we would show our steps down. Okay?